Hi friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Em and this is going to be my June wrap up. So if you saw my last vlog, you'll know I am getting over being sick. So I'm tired, I'm starting to get a headache, and the cat is gonna lose her mind if I don't feed her in the next 15 minutes when it is actually dinner time, even though she's thought it was dinner time for the last hour. So this is gonna be a short and snappy wrap up. Here are my reading stats, if you care about these things. I feel like I had kind of a mid-month, but that seems to be the theme for this year. Let's dive right on into them. First off, I read Fate's Bane by C.L. Clarke. This was sent to me by Tor, and this is out in September. It's out in September of this year, and it's a novella, and it was sold to me as sad swamp lesbians. That also sounds like buzzwords for you. I didn't realize there were buzzwords for me until I heard that, but I really liked it. I love C.L. Clarke's writing, and it just makes me want to dive it back into the series that The Unbroken is a part of because their writing is just so great. Next up, I read Normporn. This is by Karen Tongson. This is nonfiction, and this is about 4 different TV shows that the author refers to as sentimental realist dramedies, and they're designed to appeal to heterosexual white Americans, but attracted quite a large amount of queer viewers. And Karen Tongson really dives into like why that type of story is appealing to queer viewers specifically, and I thought it was very interesting. I wish it had been a little bit more of a deep dive and we had done more shows because I was only I'd only actively watched one of the shows. She talks about Gilmore Girls, This Is Us, Vampire Diaries, and 30-somethings, and I've only watched Gilmore Girls, so it might be fun to go back to if I ever watch any of those other shows, but I probably won't, if I'm being brutally honest. And then my kids read volume 1 of Spy Family and wanted me to read it too, so I did, and this was really fun. This is a manga about a spy who needs to infiltrate this elite private school and so has to manufacture a family in order to do so, and it's just like hijinks across the board, but it was really fun. I don't know if I'll continue, but I had a really good time reading this one, and I can see why this series as a whole is so beloved. All right, The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. This is one of my most anticipated reads of this year. Unfortunately, it was not the 5-star I thought it was going to be. We're following this woman whose name is Six, and she is one of 6 foundling girls that have been raised at this abbey to be future seers, like fortune tellers for anybody who has enough money to pay for the privilege. And she has been there since she was very young, and all 6 of these young women are about to reach the end of their time at this abbey, and then the other diviners, as they're called, start disappearing, and 6 is kind of thrust into this search to find out what happened to them. The catalyst for all of this is that a young king has just been crowned, and he comes with his contingency of knights to the abbey to have his future foretold, and it's not good. It's not good. This is a romantasy, and I don't know. I liked so much of it, and then there was equally parts that I didn't like, and I'm going to continue on with the series. The highlight for me in this book was the gargoyle, and the low point for me in this book was the ending, unfortunately. And I am such an endings reader, so if the ending is not a good time, unfortunately, that is my first takeaway when I think back on whether or not I enjoyed a book. I wish it wasn't that way, but that is kind of how I run. Next up, I reread The Giver by Lois Lowry. I read this for the Betty Pages Challenge Your Shelf Reading Challenge, and I haven't read The Giver since middle school. I honestly probably couldn't have even really told you anything about what happened. It was kind of like reading it for the first time, but this is set in an undetermined future, and we're following a boy named Jonah, or is it, yeah, Jonah, is that right? Anyways, who's about to transition into not adulthood, but having more responsibility in his community and the things that he is learning about his community. And I thought it was really great. I'm so glad I reread it. And I'm not going to continue on. I love the ending for this book. I do not need, I know Lois Lowry has gone on to write like multiple books set in the same world, and so you do find out what happened to Jonah. I hope that's the right name in those other books. I have no desire. I love how she ended it. And then Tor was so nice, and they sent me a bind up of the Emily Adventures by Martha Wells, and I read book 1, Emily and the Hollow World. This is a YA like steampunk fantasy duology, and we're following Emily, who is running away from her uncle and aunt and is intending to sneak onto a ship, but sneaks up onto the wrong ship and ends up going into a world inside her own world. And this world building was super cool. I didn't always love Emily. She read a lot. She's supposed to be 16, and she read a lot younger in my mind, or to my mind. Yeah, so I thought this was really fun. Sometimes my brain can bounce off of Martha Wells' writing in a really unfortunate way, because I do really love the stories that she tells, and it did bounce off of this pretty hard. But I think eventually I will go back and finish the duology just to see what happens to Emily, where the next adventure takes her, because she was definitely going on to like another world at the end of the first book. I had to play a little bit of catch up this month from the Betty Page's Challenge Your Shelf Reading Challenge, because I didn't get to the May book as quickly as I thought I was going to. So I ended up mostly reading Chain Gang All-Stars by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brené in June, and this was just as excellent as everybody said it was. I gave it like 4.5 stars. This is also set in future United States, where the prison system has started this reality TV show that's Battle to the Death, and we're following various inmates as they compete in this show, and it really shines a light on the atrocity that is the American prison complex, and how horrible prisoners are treated, and just how cruel of a system it is, and how it's not really justice at all. It's just cruelty. And I loved his writing. I've read Friday Black, and because I'm not a short story person, like not all of those short stories worked for me, but the ones that did, his writing is so good. And I really like this. It felt so real in most parts. So I think if you like Parable of the Sower and that kind of dystopian that feels possible, then you should definitely check this out. And if you don't know much about like the American prison industrial complex and you want to know more, but you're not quite ready to pick up nonfiction about it, this could, I imagine, would be a good springboard to get you curious enough to start picking up nonfiction about it. Oh, and my surprise book. I did not think I would love this as much as I loved it. A Dark and Drowning Tide by Alison Saft. Oh, this was like the sapphic dark academia of my dreams. When I am looking for a sapphic romance and I am looking for the banter, this is what I'm talking about. Like every time I've complained about there's not enough banter, or once they fall in love, they both go soft, that's become my new complaint, is when you start off with two characters who bicker back and forth, and then once they fall in love, the bickering just goes away and they don't disagree about anything anymore. If you are starting me off with them bickering, they need to continue to bicker even after they have feelings for each other and after they have admitted those feelings. They can't just totally change their personalities. You can't bait and switch me like that. And Alison Saft understood what I was looking for, and I really love this. It did have a little bit of a fairy tale element it's a fairy tale element that I really enjoyed, and we're following two academics, basically Lorelai, but Sylvia's there too, and they're going on this expedition to discover this magic spring, and the leader of their expedition is murdered the first night out. So there's like a little bit of a murder mystery. There's also like an expedition to find this spring. There's lots of monsters, like mythical monsters, which I loved, and just the pining and the bickering. And it was so good. It was so good. I loved it. I'm really excited to read more Alison Saft after this. All right, we got some disappointing books in a row, so I'm going to go quick. I did finally read Don't Sleep with the Dead by Nevo. This is the standalone companion to The Chosen and the Beautiful. I don't know that you can read this without reading The Chosen and the Beautiful. I think I would have been pretty lost. I don't love this Great Gatsby world that Nevo is playing around in, because a lot of it is just rich people problems, and I cannot even describe how uninterested I am in rich people problems. This one, though, we're following Nick. It's a few years after the events of The Great Gatsby. There is more magic in this one, which I liked. It is super duper short. It's just not my favorite Nevo project. I guess it's just 2 disappointing books in a row so far. I read an advanced copy of No Body by No Crime by Tess Sharp. This is a thriller, and I was saying to my husband, the problem with reading a book in a genre outside of my comfort zone is I can't tell if I didn't like it because I don't like this genre or because it's a bad version of its genre. This is about 2 women. I've forgotten their names. They went to high school together, and you're doing multiple timelines. You are following them when they are 16, when this horrible thing happens on the night of one of their birthdays, and then you're following them in the present day as well as they're dealing with the consequences of whatever happened on that night. And so we're bouncing back and forth, which really slowed down the pacing of this book. It kept it from, like, I should have flown through this book, and it felt so slow because we were jumping around so much. This is also supposed to be like a sapphic romance, and I did not buy the romance between these 2 characters. They didn't have any chemistry, and I just felt like the writing was very stereotypical and cringe a lot of the time. It just was not, I didn't like it. I think this author traditionally has published YA, and I feel like I would have liked it more if we'd either stayed when they were 16 and it was a YA thriller, or they were just adults the whole time. But because we jumped around a lot, even when we were in their like 23-year-old timeline, they still sounded really juvenile, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it. Another surprise is I got to continue in the Kindred's Curse saga. I was this moment years old when I realized that's the series is called. But that's Glow of the Everflame by Pencole. This is book 2, the sequel to The Spark of the Everflame. I gave this 4 stars, which is what I gave Spark of the Everflame. I'm having a really fun time with this romantasy. This is about a woman named DM who lives in this world where mortals are basically second-class citizens, and I don't really want to tell you more than that because I think I can't tell you anything about this because it gets really spoilery really fast. But I find this series really fun, really engaging. It doesn't feel like it's taking itself too seriously. It's just here to be a fun time, and I am, in fact, having a fun time, and I can't wait to read the next one, except the next one is like even chunkier, so I am scared, but also excited to see what happens, especially because the end of this was really, really cliffhangery. Next up, we have Rose House by Arkady Martine. This is a sci-fi murder mystery novella. I love Arkady Martine. Unfortunately, I did not love this one. This is a murder mystery. It's kind of like a locked room mystery. The mystery takes place in this AI house, and the AI in the house is a character in this book, and it was very, like, the AI house was very creepy, very atmospheric, like almost like a haunted house situation going on. But there were 3 POVs in this, and I have said before, in novellas, 3 POVs is too much, and I don't really think a novella is the right length for a murder mystery. I've yet to read one where I felt like the murder mystery had enough time to breathe and to be revealed. I just think this is too short to build up a murder mystery adequately, no matter how much I love the author's writing. All right, now we got some positive things to say. Thank goodness. I read an advanced copy of Automatic Noodle by Annalee Newitz. This is another novella. It is sci-fi. It is set in future San Francisco, where a band of robots decide to open a noodle restaurant in San Francisco, and it's very cozy, very sweet. It took me a little bit to get into it and to get to know each of the characters, because again, there are a lot of characters for a novella, but once I was in it, I thought it was so charming and relaxing and enjoyable to read. And I think if you're looking for a cozy good time, not to compare every cozy thing to Legends and Lattes, but because they are opening up a restaurant in this book, it did end up reminding me a lot of my experience reading Legends and Lattes. So definitely recommend it if you like that as well. I finally picked up Phantasma by Kaylee Smith, and this was another 4-star read. This is like a dark romantasy where this woman has to enter into this to the death competition where you have to escape the 9 circles of hell. And I thought it was really fun. It's very gory, definitely leads into like body horror and gore. So if like that's a thing for you, it is in here quite a bit. But I thought it was great. I had a lot of fun. I didn't love the ending. So, you know, unfortunately, I did love the atmosphere and the competition. And I'll probably read Enchantra because I've heard even people who love Phantasma think Enchantra is even better. So it's high up on my priority list. For my buzzword, I think it was for the reading challenge where you had to read a book with a memory word in the title. I read Forget Me Not by Ellie Terry. This is an older YA book. It came out, I think, in 2017. But I've had it on my radar since it came out and have wanted to read it. It's a novel in verse, and the main character is Calliope, and she has Tourette's, and she is starting a new middle school and has been told by her mother and her doctor to not tell anybody that she has Tourette's, but she is tired of hiding who she is and of being made fun of. And this is a really lovely, maybe not coming of age story, but just story about friendship and learning to accept yourself and then also how to stand up for yourself. And I thought it was really lovely. It is dual POV, so you're following Calliope and her bits are in verse, and then you're also following this boy that she makes friends with named Jinsong, and his parts are in prose, but it's not super clear in the text right away, and it did take me a minute to catch on to what the author was doing, but I thought this was a really great book, and I don't think I've ever read a book where the main character has Tourette's syndrome before. So it was good. Yeah, solid representation. I mean, take that with a grain of salt because I know next to nothing about Tourette's syndrome. And then finally, this book's only been out since April, but I've been wanting to read it since April. Picked up the sequel to Saint Death's Daughter. This is Saint Death's Herald by C.S.E. Cooney, and we're following Lainey where we left her in book 1. Again, I didn't love this as much as I loved book 1. C.S.E. Cooney did the thing that I really don't like in books, where in book 1 you have a main character who's really isolated and alone, and throughout the course of book 1 she meets this great group of people and really like builds a community and a family around herself. And then in book 2 everyone is scattered to the winds and they're not together anymore. And I hate when they're not together anymore. It just makes me sad, and I just spend the whole book waiting for them to be all together again, and that's kind of what happened here. So I only gave it a 3.75, which is kind of devastating because I gave book 1 5 stars, but I love C.S.E. Cooney's writing. I don't think there's anybody else who writes quite like she does, and I love her characters and I love this world. My pitch for this series is it's about a necromancer who is literally allergic to violence, and it's fantastic, and I highly recommend book 1. We'll see. We have one more book before this series is completed, and then I can decide if I'm recommending the whole series. And then for my year of Butler and Gaskell, I was supposed to read Wives and Daughters, but little did I know that book is 700 pages long, and I waited until there were 6 days left in June to even attempt to start it. So I did a quick pivot, and instead I read Cranford by Elizabeth Gaskell. This is about the village of Cranford where we are told there are no men. Men move in, but men don't stay. And it's run and organized, and everyone is taken care of by this group of women. And it's a little slice of life and a little not. I don't know. It was a weird story. Sometimes it was satirical. Sometimes it was deeply earnest and sentimental. So I only gave it 3 stars. I don't know that I would recommend it, especially not if you're only going to read one Elizabeth Gaskell. I think she has a better book so far, just one better book. But it was a thing that I read, and it meant that I didn't have a month where I didn't fulfill my goal of reading a book by Octavia E. Butler or Elizabeth Gaskell. And then the final book in this wrap-up, I read this for the Buzzword cover challenge, which was to read a book with a celestial thing on the cover. And I picked When the Tides Held the Moon by Vanessa Vita Kelly. This is historical romance with like a little bit of fantasy about a man named Benny who is an immigrant from Puerto Rico, and he is a blacksmith, and he gets a job working for this amusement park on Coney Island, and there he falls in love with a merman who has been captured for an exhibit. And it was really great. It was very lovely. I had a great time. This is super slow burn romance, but I just thought it was absolutely delightful, and I think this is her debut, so I can't wait to read more from her. There are illustrations in this, and they are absolutely lovely, and they made the reading experience even more delightful. I did read this while I was sick, and I wish I hadn't. I mean, because I still gave it 4.5 stars, but I wonder if it would have been a 5 if I had been like fully aware, full using all my brain cells while I was reading it. But still great. I still highly recommend it. Like, if I had to recommend you pick up 2 books, do we want to do 2? 2 books, 3 books from this wrap up. If I was going to recommend only 3, wow, they all are gay. Who would have seen that coming? I would recommend Fate's Bane, A Dark and Drowning Tide, and When the Tides Held the Moon. These are the 3. Like, if you're only going to pick 3 to read from my wrap up, these are the ones I would urge you to read, because I thought they were so well done and so beautiful, and the writing was just so good. Anyways, that is my wrap up. I now need to go feed my cat and make dinner for the children. So thank you so much for watching and for spending your precious time with me. If you would like to leave an emoji to let me know you're here, let's leave a pride flag or a rainbow, because it is Pride Month, or was Pride Month. And like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll talk to y'all in the next one. Bye!